Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you've never been here before. My name is Bailey and this is my 2-week-old daughter Adeline. She's asleep right now, but this is her. I love her so much, she's so precious. She's a very big girl. I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but she's a very big baby. But today we are going to be doing a story time, or I guess, I don't know if that's what this would be considered, but this is just going to be our story of our labor and delivery. It was a very traumatic labor and delivery, a very hard one, and yeah, a lot of stuff went down giving birth to this little baby, but it was so all worth it. So just before you guys leave and before we continue on, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about her really quick. She was born on May 24th at 10:59 p.m. She weighed 8 pounds and 13 ounces, and she was 20.5 inches long. So she was a big little girl, and her name is Adeline Olivia Kahn. And yeah, she's 2 weeks old and 2 days. Today's Sunday, she was born on a Friday. So I believe that'd be 2 days. 2 weeks and 2 days, I think. I just know she's 2 weeks. But yeah, we can just go ahead and jump right into the video, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, we'll see how she does. I don't know how long she'll be able to stay in this video, but because she's all squirming around over here. Okay, so yeah, so this video is basically just going to be about our labor and delivery. Oh my gosh, that was a big burp. Yes, if you guys want to see more pictures of her and just see more of our life, you guys can go check out my Instagram. I'll have it linked down below in the description. But yeah, anyways, so we're going to just start off with how I went into labor. So I was 39 weeks and 5 days, I think, when I went into labor. I went into labor on Thursday, the 23rd. Yes, May 23rd. And I was due May 26th. So I wasn't really having, because I had previous labor signs before the day I went into labor, but I didn't. The day I actually went into labor, I had no labor signs whatsoever. It was just a normal day, and I was like, okay, this girl's not coming. And it was 9:30 at night. I was laying in bed, and I went to get up, and I felt a little bit of fluid come out from down there. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just peed myself or something. So I get up, go to the bathroom, and I come back, and I'm just like leaking. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure my water broke or is leaking. So I just waited like a few minutes, and then it just kept coming out, which they say that's when you know your water is leaking if it keeps coming out, because I had thought my water broke before, and it didn't. But when I thought it had broke before, it just came out one time, but this kept coming out. So that happened at 9:30. We got to the hospital at like 10:30. They, you know, they checked me and everything, checked my cervix. I was at a 4. I think I was at a 4. They did like a swab test to see if my water had actually broke, and they used a speculum. They did like 3 different tests, is what they do to make sure it's your water. And I passed all 3 tests. So my water had, a part of it had broke, not all of it had broke, because I was still, which you stay leaking, I guess, because your womb keeps producing the amniotic fluid. So yeah, so my water kind of broke at 9:30, or a part of it broke at least. So they admitted me, and you know, they were waiting. I had no contractions whatsoever, which only 10% of women, their water breaks before they actually go into active labor. So I was part of the 10% of women that their water breaks beforehand. So yeah, I wasn't having any contractions whatsoever. So they just brought me to my labor and delivery room. We were just waiting for contractions to start up on their own. Because at my hospital, the midwives, because I seen an OB, an actual doctor, but at the hospital I delivered at, there's midwives there that deliver the baby and handle all of that. But the doctors step in if anything goes wrong. So the midwives more like to let your body go into labor. So they just waited and waited, and we were trying to see if my body would naturally pick up contractions and start labor on its own. So I was in my labor and delivery room for 12 hours, still no contractions. I mean, they were like mild, but I couldn't feel any of them. I could not feel no contractions whatsoever. So yeah, 12 hours went by and nothing happened. I wasn't dilating anymore, nothing. So they had to start me on Pitocin, I think is what it is. I'll put the name right here if I can, but pretty sure it's Pitocin. That's what I think how you say it. But that's just to induce labor and to start up contractions. So they started me on that, and the Pitocin can go up to 20 something, like, I don't know, it's just out of 20. That's the highest dosage is 20, I guess. So they just started me off really slowly because they were more wanting my body to, start labor naturally. So they just started me off at a 1 at first to see if that was enough to kickstart something going. It didn't. So they slowly kept increasing it. I think I got up to a 12 out of 20 before, my body started really doing anything. It was a really long process, but so that was another 12 hours of being on the Pitocin. I really hope I'm saying that word right. So yeah, I was on that for another 12 hours. So in total, 24 hours of, I guess, being in labor, or I was at the hospital for 24 hours after my water broke. So while they were slowly increasing the medicine, I did get the epidural because I didn't want to wait too long. And then, because I never felt any painful contractions, which I'm so happy. Well, I mean, I guess I did for like maybe 15 minutes. There were some painful contractions before the epidural. People got there to do my epidural, but they were nothing like labor contractions, like what everybody describes them as. I didn't really experience that like that, where I was in excruciating pain or whatever, but they were kind of painful. So then I requested to get my epidural probably 6 hours after I got the medicine. So this was 6 hours before I started pushing. So I was on the epidural for probably about 6 hours, I believe, before I started pushing. So I fully dilated, 24 hours later after 12 hours of being on the medicine. And so at, let's see, I think at 8 o'clock, they were ready for me to start pushing. So I started pushing at 8 o'clock, I think, is whenever I started pushing. I don't remember much. It was kind of because of everything that happened, which we'll get into everything that actually happened during labor. During the delivery. But, yeah, so I think I started pushing at 8 o'clock. So I remember the first half of me pushing and everything. It was very odd, like trying to push out a baby. It's the weirdest thing ever. And Elijah, my fiance, was in the delivery room. He was the only one in there besides the nurses and the midwife. So he was in there, and what's so funny is he said that, like, he didn't want to see anything down there. He was going to stay up at my head and not, just not see anything down there, because they asked me if I wanted a mirror to watch, and I was like, no, I just don't want to. It just kind of scares me. I don't want to see that, right? I don't know. It was just freaking me out because I didn't want to just see what all was going down. So anyways, he originally said that he was like just grossed out by labor and delivery and everything, and he was just not going to look or nothing. Well, the whole entire time he was down there helping the doctors, involved in the whole thing, which was like great. I think that he, wasn't grossed out by it. It was like kind of a cool experience for him. He, enjoyed it. It wasn't weird or, which a lot of men, that's not how it goes. They want nothing to do with staying down there when you're giving birth. But anyways, I know a lot of men, they don't want to see anything to do with that, with the birthing process. But he got to see her head crown. He got to see all of her hair. She was born with all of this hair. So that's the first thing that he got to see was her hair. So yeah, I pushed for 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours before she actually came out. What's wrong? Why are you trying to go? Oh. Okay, so yes, I had pushed for 2.5 to 3 hours. And so whenever, I don't remember much because I did hemorrhage while giving birth. So I started, going out of it pretty quickly. I don't know if I hemorrhaged after she came out or what, but things got pretty crazy. I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember bits and pieces here and there. But I know I remember pushing out her head, I think, or I remember her head crowning at least. And they knew that she was going to be a 9-pound baby almost, is what the ultrasound, kind of projected her as, is being a 9-pound baby. So the nurses had brought in chairs for each side, like little step stools. So if, something happened, they could get up on these step stools and start pushing on my stomach to get her out. So I remember her head crowning and everything, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, I started coming in and out of it. But so after her head crowned, let me see here. I'm just trying to like piece this all together. Okay, so after her head crowned and I think her head came out, she got stuck, and I guess her right on her neck maybe is where she got stuck, or I just know she got stuck at somewhere, and she didn't have air for 3 minutes while they were trying to get her out. So the nurses got on their little step stools and they all started pushing on me to get her out. They called in all these doctors and all these nurses. All these people came in the room. I just remember bits and pieces. It all became very chaotic very fast because I guess an emergency situation to get her out. So they did do an episiotomy. Also, I don't know at what point they did that. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it at all. Just because so much chaos was happening. So at some point they did an episiotomy to make it easier for her to come out. But I don't remember the part where the nurses got up on me and were like pushing on me, but Elijah said that it looked like they were like beating me because they were just jumping on my stomach so hard to get her out, just trying to push her out, because I was pushing for 3 hours, so I think it became too much for my body and I couldn't, keep pushing as hard as I was. So getting her out became very difficult. And so once they got her head out, her shoulders also got stuck. So she had, I think, shoulder dystocia. Sorry if it's kind of loud. I have the window open in here. I think she had shoulder dystocia, I think is what it's called. But so her head got stuck first, and then her shoulders also got stuck. And I think her hips also got stuck because she was such a big baby. She was 3 ounces away from being 9 pounds. So after they got her out, they laid her on me. I do remember this part. They laid her on me. Everything was still very chaotic around me. I was still going in and out of it. I just remember they put her on me, and she was non-responsive. They say that like when the baby comes out, they're supposed to be stiff, and her body was just like completely like jello. So they laid her on me, and I just remember all the nurses like saying, "Come on, baby girl, come on, baby girl," like trying to get her to respond. And that was like the most terrifying thing to me. Because we had lost a baby in the past. I was only 8 weeks pregnant, but I mean, it still hurt to lose that baby. So the whole pregnancy, we were like so uptight, just thinking like what can happen and everything. So once we finally made it to the end of the pregnancy, it was great when, that we got that far. So I just remember laying there, them trying to get her to respond, just thinking, I was just praying and praying and crying that, that she was okay. Because I really wasn't, I was like halfway conscious at this point because of everything that had happened during getting her out. So that was the most terrifying thing for me. I think my brain was holding on until I knew she was okay. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah. So she was non-responsive for I think 45 seconds. But it felt like the longest 45 seconds of my life. So they finally got her to respond. She started crying and everything. And oh my gosh. So as soon as my brain knew she was okay, that's when I went out of it. That's my heart rate started dropping. My well, let's see. I don't remember how this happened. I just know I hemorrhaged after she came out. I don't. They tried to get my placenta out. My placenta was stuck, and I don't really remember much of this part. But I just know my heart rate dropped. My oxygen. I wasn't really breathing. My blood pressure. My blood pressure was like 118 or something. It went down like to the 30s. So then more medical team came in to get, you know, get me stable. So the room was just full of doctors and everything. So yeah, I remember they put an oxygen mask on me, I think. And, what? What? Yeah. Yeah, so they put the oxygen mask on me. I would remember bits and pieces of this stuff because I had lost so much blood. Yeah, I had lost a lot of blood while giving birth or after or whatever had happened when I hemorrhaged. So I don't really remember much at all. So they ended up putting a balloon inside of me full of fluid, I guess, to stop the bleeding. Because I guess when the baby comes out, your uterus is supposed to contract down. Mine stayed the same. Mine stayed big and everything. It didn't contract down like it should have. So the bleeding was just going crazy. I was just bleeding uncontrollably. And so they ended up putting a balloon inside of me, I guess, full of liquid or whatever to put pressure on it to get the bleeding to stop. They put 480 something. I just know that's how much was in the balloon. Yeah, so they put that in me. They stitched me up and everything. I still don't remember any of this, just because I had lost so much blood that basically I couldn't do anything. I couldn't hardly open up my eyes or anything. I was just laying in the bed and don't remember much. They had to put a catheter in me because, you know, I wasn't able to do really anything. So yeah, which that was really hard for me because I didn't get to hold her till like, I think 6 hours after she was born. I really wanted to breastfeed. I wanted, you know, her first feeding to be me, and I wanted to do the skin to skin. I wanted to, you know, remember my whole labor and delivery experience, but I had lost so much blood I couldn't even function at all, really. I was just laying in the bed, so I didn't get to hold her or do anything till like 6 hours after she was born, I think. So her dad had to feed her a bottle for her first feeding. He basically just took care of her until I could, you know, kind of wake up and, you know, hold her and everything. I had absolutely no strength whatsoever. So they were gonna do a blood transfusion at first. They had brought 2 units of blood in and they were gonna do it, but, you know, they got me conscious. They got my heart rate back up. They got, you know, my blood pressure and my oxygen back up. So they held off on the blood transfusion at first, just because, you know, there's always risks of getting a blood transfusion. There's like, I think they said there's like a 0.1% chance that you can get hepatitis or AIDS or something. There's a chance that your body can react bad to the blood, that you can have an allergic reaction. I mean, there's just different, I guess, risks with getting a blood transfusion. So since they got me stable, they waited on the blood transfusion for now. And so yeah, I just remember bits and pieces. I remember waking up and feeling absolutely terrible. It literally had felt like I died, like, because I had no energy, no strength. It literally felt like I hadn't eaten in like weeks. It felt like I just got hit by a bus. It was just the worst feeling ever. So they kept this balloon in me for, I think, a day, and then they wanted to slowly start decreasing the liquid in there and slowly start taking it out to see if the bleeding has stopped. And if it hadn't, they were gonna have to take me into surgery or do other things to get the bleeding to stop. What are you doing? To get the bleeding to stop. So they they slowly started taking out the balloon, and everything was looking really good. So they took out the balloon, and they were just making sure. It took a while to get out the balloon. It took probably like almost a whole day for them to take out the balloon, because it was a slow process, because they didn't want me to bleed out even more and lose more blood than I already had. So they just slowly were trying to get it out of me. So yeah, let's see here. I'm just trying to think of everything that happened. It's very foggy, just because I was so in and out of it for most of our hospital stay. We were in the hospital for 5 days, just to make sure I was stable, because I had lost so much blood. And usually after, so you have your labor and delivery room, and then at my hospital at least, and then after, you give birth and everything, within 2 hours, they move you into postpartum area. Well, I had to stay in labor and delivery for like 3 days, just because I was at such high risk of bleeding and stuff. So they just had to make sure I was stable enough to move to another room, because they didn't want to move me. They didn't want to do anything like that yet until they knew I was stable. So I was in labor and delivery for 3 days, and then I think on the 3rd day, after they got out the balloon and it looked like the bleeding was doing good and everything, they moved me to the postpartum room. And so I hadn't eaten for 3 days. I had not walked for 3 days, nothing. I had a catheter in me for these 3 days. So yeah, I was just in the bed, and I could not have walked. I know if I would have stood up, I would have just fell, just because I had lost so much blood, and I had no energy, no anything. I was like a vegetable, basically. So then they finally get me into the postpartum room, and this is when they decide to do the blood transfusion, because my, I guess, hemoglobin levels were so low. A normal person's hemoglobin levels, the blood count, I guess, is between a 13 to a 16 or a 12 to a 16. Mine were at a 6. So I was halfway. I had lost like half the blood in me. So then my blood levels weren't rising on their own, so they ended up doing a unit of blood. They put 1 unit in me. So they tried to do, you can't really see it on this arm, but they tried to do the blood transfusion right there in that IV first, and it did not work. So I thought I was just like tripping, because I was so low on blood, and I had just, my brain wasn't really functioning right, and I thought my arm was swelling up, and it was very painful. So I could see my arm like raising as the blood's going in me and everything. So I called the nurse, and I'm like, I think that this transfusion's not going right. The blood wasn't even going to my vein, it was going into my arm, basically. So they had to take it out, and in the hospital, I was stuck with needles over like 50 times, because they had to keep taking blood, they had to keep doing labs. Just right here in this arm, they had done like probably 13 blood draws, just because my veins were, when it's loud outside, when you lose so much blood, and like with sick people and old people, sorry about the noise, with sick people and old people, your veins roll really easily, and so they kept trying to get blood out of me, and every single vein would roll. They could not find any of my veins, because there was so much less blood in me. So they had to do another IV, and they tried to do another IV, I think 6 to 8 times before they actually got the IV. I had 4 different nurses come in to try and get this second IV in me, and they couldn't get it. So yeah, it took them like 6 to 8 tries to get, no, this was the 3rd IV actually. I had 3 IVs in total put in me. So yeah, that was awful, which I hate needles. Every time someone pokes me, I would pass out or I would throw up. And so during this hospital stay, getting stuck like literally 50 times or more definitely made me get more used to needles. I definitely don't think I have such a fear of them now, just because I had to get stuck so many times. So then after they got the blood transfusion in, they had to keep doing more labs. So they had to keep coming in and taking my blood to make sure my blood levels were going up and everything. And yeah, so my blood levels slowly were going up. They were at a 6 after I had her and lost all the blood. And then after they did the blood transfusion, it went up to like an 8.9, I think, which was a lot better. So yeah, so that's good that my blood levels went up. 2 weeks later, I am feeling so much better. For the first week, it was so, oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I was in the hospital for 5 days. Anyways, but I just remember walking seemed nearly impossible. My body hurt so bad, and I had no energy. I had no, just anything. I just felt awful. So yeah, they sent us home on the 5th day. We came home. I still, felt like complete crap. Just wanted to lay in bed, which it was really hard. Me and the baby bonding was very hard because I had no energy for the first week of her life. I just couldn't really do anything at all. I could barely get out of bed or anything. So yeah, that was really hard on us, or on me at least, to not be able to, have that bonding with her. And also breastfeeding didn't really work out because I didn't have the energy to breastfeed her. And also my body just wasn't producing enough because of everything I had went through. So we had to formula feed her, and right now we're still formula feeding her and supplementing with some breast milk here and there. But I'm trying to get my milk supply back up so that we can start only breastfeeding. But so my complete labor and delivery and after just was not anything I expected would ever happen. I did not think it would happen to me. I think only like 1% of women hemorrhage while giving birth. So, I had a great pregnancy, and then I had an awful labor and delivery. So yeah, that is basically the whole story of this. I know this was a really long video, but I just figured that's why I have not been, making videos, because we're still recovering, still getting into our, routine and everything of after recovering from everything that happened. So that's why I've just kind of taken some time off to just focus on us and everything. So right now she's 2 weeks old and a couple days. Today's Sunday when I'm filming this. She was born on a Friday. She was born May 24th at 10:59 p.m. She weighed 8 pounds and 13 ounces, and she was 20.5 inches long. So she was a big girl. But yeah, that is our labor and delivery story. And we are happy and healthy now. Everything is going good. I'm just so thankful that we made it through all of that. And yeah, they did say with future pregnancies and future deliveries that it's going to be a lot more complicated for me to have more babies because I will most likely hemorrhage again while giving birth. So yeah, so we'll have to figure out what our plan is for that, what our options are about. I don't know if we have to have a C-section or if I can't have regular, or if it's just taking the chance and going through this whole process again to have more babies. I don't know. But yeah, that's just something we're gonna have to think about for the future. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this very long video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. But yeah, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Just don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and we will see you next time. Bye.